Hi there, Sassenachs. Good evening. This is Fumbi, and I have the message that this hangout is live. How's it going, everybody? Again, this is Fumbi with We So Nerdy here with Katie, and we are going to be discussing tonight's newest Outlander episode, Common Ground. How is it going, Katie?
Oh, I'm great. I'm super good. I'm so excited to be here and talking with you tonight. It's my weekly favorite thing on Sundays. So yay, let's get started.
Yes. So we hope that our friends in the USA had a very enjoyable Thanksgiving, that you had fun times with family and friends, good food. Maybe you did a little shopping too. I did way too much shopping. I'm actually still recovering from it. That's a different story. And to our friends outside of the US and across the world, hopefully you guys had a really relaxing weekend too. Goodness knows that we all deserve a break. So thank you very much. Sorry?
I said, yes, ma'am.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in again this week to talk about all our favorite Outlander things. In the season of giving thanks, we are thankful for you. So keep in mind that our recap review of Common Ground is now live and includes a new image of Jamie taking on Tuscaliona, as well as 2 new clips from the episode. So definitely check out the link right down below. Okay, as Katie said, let us get into it. So it's really interesting because when I was watching this episode, I was watching it right like the day after Thanksgiving, and it didn't click until I finished watching the episode that I shouldn't really be surprised, and it shouldn't surprise us that it's in the week that Americans are celebrating Thanksgiving. The episode which airs for Outlander is the one where Jamie and Claire come into contact with local Native American populations as they're trying to settle Fraser's Ridge. So Jamie and Claire in this episode attempt to find common ground with the local Cherokees. And in the 20th century, we see Bree and Roger also trying to find common ground with one another in the aftermath of their really huge blow up, which we talked about last week. So perhaps news of Claire and Jamie can be that bridge that could bring them back together again. Maybe. So Katie, turning it over to you, can you kick us off and tell us what did you enjoy about Common Ground?
Oh goodness. I definitely really liked the whole Bree Roger interaction, but that's super later, and so I'll get to all of my feelings about that. The first thing that really stuck out to me that I loved is when Jamie is with Governor Tryon. Is that how you pronounce it right? I know.
Yeah.
Tryon. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Tryon. Okay. I had to let the Southern thing roll off my tongue for a second. Tryon. Okay. And he says, you know, we've made up this room for your wife so that she'll be comfortable while you build your home. And Jamie kind of like steps up and he's like, my wife's a pretty strong woman. She's a healer. She can take care of herself. She's going to be with me while we build this house. And I loved that. I thought that was so fantastic to see Jamie just like being so proud of Claire and her ability to handle herself and to do these things. And that made me very happy from the very start.
Absolutely. I mean, Jamie knows his wife, you know what I mean? Jamie knows Claire, and he tells Tryon this. He's like, you know, she has actually, you know, she's a very formidable woman. She's seen war. She's a healer. Like, I mean, she can handle it. And I cannot do this without her. I cannot construct and build this new settlement without my wife. And my wife is going to be right by my side. So I think this harkens back to what we've been talking about all season long, which is that Jamie and Claire are together and they are so solid. Like, they are just so solidly in this relationship. They are so solidly partners. And I mean, certainly from the beginning to the end of this episode, we see that over and over and over and over again. I mean, these two are a team, and they really can't do this thing. They can't build this new life for themselves without one another. But sort of thinking about that scene, right? That opening scene, I thought it was a really interesting one because, since the end of the episode, after Jamie and Claire look out and they find this ridge that is going to become theirs, and they've gone back to Wilmington to make this deal with Tryon. And I just can't help but think, right, that this governor is not our friend. That's just a phrase that keeps playing in the back of my mind. Like, Governor Tryon is not our friend. He wants something, right? So it's like, what is the price, the true price that Jamie and Claire are going to have to pay for these 10,000 acres?
And see, that's what I've wondered too, because he always mentions these regulators and these people who are starting these rebellions and these people who are causing issues. And he wants Jamie to get together, Scottish people that he trusts that will help him with this land. But it all just seems to me that he's trying to create some form of militia for himself, of men who are familiar with war, who are familiar with battle. And I wonder if he's going to try and, when the war does eventually come around, be like, hey, that land, I need you to fight for us now.
Yeah. And Claire sees it, right? Claire sees it right from the beginning. Claire sees it. And I mean, the thing with Tryon, right, is that he's absolutely expecting something in exchange, right? At minimum, he wants Jamie's loyalty. At minimum, he wants that loyalty. But I absolutely agree with you, Katie, and Claire says this, right, that when the time comes to pick up arms to fight defensively against these regulators and eventually sort of the Revolutionary War, Tryon is 100% going to call on Jamie and ask Jamie to put a group together to help defend him and help defend Britain. So that is really interesting, right? Because even with Tryon, right, like, I just feel like part of him, like, you can see part of him respects Jamie, but it seems to me like a part of him also like looks down on Jamie. I don't know if I'm making that up. I don't know what, maybe our friends who are watching can help us to reflect on that a little bit too. It just, I can't put my hands on it. I can't put my fingers on it quite, but it just feels icky.
No, I agree with you. And I think it all kind of goes back to the fact that Jamie is this Scottish man, this Highlander. And the British do not and have never looked kindly on them. And so I think he's always going to feel like a little bit superior to him. But there's a part of me that goes, it's going to be a cold day in hell before Jamie Fraser picks up arms and fights with the British for anything. Like, it has to be.
I mean, I would agree.
Because, like, no, not my Jamie Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser, who is in Ardsmuir.
Yeah. I that's the thing that we sort of have to ask her. I mean, but the thing is that Jamie has always known how to play the game. Like, Jamie has always known how to play the game. Like, even when Tryon is like, I have a feeling that you've dined with princes and paupers, right? So sort of a nod to the fact, like a recognition of the fact that Jamie knows how to navigate whole, like, multiple communities, multiple social circles, and like come out on top in each one, right? So I mean, I certainly think that's part of it too.
I agree. I'm interested to see how their, I guess, working relationship pans out. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. But I like what you said about his, you've dined with princes and paupers, and that kind of leads into a conversation about the Native Americans and Highlanders and this idea of savagery and how they're connected. And I thought that was really interesting because the first person who really brings that up is Ian.
Yep.
And then we see, Governor Tryon bring it up. And there's so much connection here between the Native Americans and the Highlanders. And it really, like, and I know everything is a circle here. And I got to thinking tonight that we have these two different cultures that have so much in common, who have in some ways built these monuments that allow you to pass through time.
Mm-hmm.
And like the connections get even deeper between them.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
I do too. I do too. I mean, and the thing is, I mean, we've said that. Who would know better than Jamie and Ian what happens when the British come to town? You know what I mean? Who would know better? So when Tryon, says that, many have reflected that the Indian savage and the Highlanders have a lot in common. What if Jamie responds, like, Jamie, I love him so much. He has the best response ever. He's like, savagery can exist in many forms, Your Excellency. And it's like, yes, let him know. Yeah. Because this season so far, all of the savagery we've seen have been from supposedly civilized white people.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag do no harm.
Yes, ma'am.
So Jamie just, like, even in the simplest phrase, he just says it, and it's super profound, and it's the truth. It's the whole truth.
I love that, because I think it shows Jamie in a way that the governor knows that he's not going to back down from him. Like, you may be the governor, and I may have, signed this land, and I owe you some loyalty at some point, but I'm not going to bend a knee to you. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. And I'll do it very kind. He does it respectfully.
Yeah.
Jamie's always like the best at like kind of delivering these cutting lines, but being super like respectful and kind of, well, and you're just like, oh, I think he said that.
Yeah, he totally did.
That was intentional what he just did there.
Absolutely. But I think
for it.
Just one more thing I'll say about Tryon is actually sort of the final exchange between Tryon and Jamie, where Tryon is, as you've said, Katie, he's increasingly frustrated about these regulators. They aren't paying their taxes. Even Tryon's own people are engaging in corruption. He doesn't know who he can trust. And for Tryon, he says sometimes you have to go outside of the law in order to maintain order, right? And Jamie responds with, well, there's the law, and then there's what is done, right? And I thought that exchange was really, really telling as well, right? Which is to say that there are times where you have to go outside of the law in order to meet your goal, whatever that goal is. And I think that actually that's really scary to hear from someone like Tryon, right? Who is willing to engage. He seems to say that he's willing to engage in that barbarism, right? In that savagery in order to get to meet his goals. So I thought that that sent a little up my spine.
And that's one of the lines that I wrote down when I was watching it, because that makes me so nervous for what's to come.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because that line to me plants a seed for whatever's going to roll out the rest of this season. He showed who he was in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And that worries me about him.
I agree. So I think we all know that Governor Tryon is still, we have not seen the last of him. Let us put it that way. We have not seen the last of him and his expectations of the Frasers. Meanwhile, while Jamie is signing the land grant and the charter and having this conversation in town, Claire and Ian are also there, and they're also sort of getting supplies that they need in order to make their way back to Fraser's Ridge and start to build their settlement. And there's this really, really wonderful moment I'm sorry, I'm really emotional.
No.
It's such a wonderful moment between
So
Claire
good.
and Marsali. Like, such a wonderful moment. And that's what, Katie, I'll turn it over to you. But I just have a lot of feelings about it. I was so happy.
It was really, because, okay, so whenever we're introduced to Marsali, I always had all these feelings because I was not a big fan of Leary. I'm not a big fan of her mom right now. But I think this moment between her and Marsali, where Claire, she sees her daughter. She sees what she's going to miss out on. She sees these experiences that she's going to miss with Bree in this girl that she does consider family, that she does consider this daughter figure. And Claire is just, it's wonderful with her. She tells her, you know, Marsali even says, you know, I know you and my mom didn't really get along all that great, you know, but, and Claire says, your mother did a fine job raising you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that just, my heart like grew like the Grinch, because I was like, that's Claire. That's so much like Claire to kind of have these issues on her own with Leary, but looking at Marsali and going, your mother raised you well.
Yeah.
And you are going to raise your child well too.
Exactly.
She knew what Marsali needed to hear.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the thing is that, like, it's not only Claire saying what Marsali needs to hear, it's also true. And I know I say that as someone who, like, in this moment, I still despise Leary. I despised Leary for years, right? Like, she is an attempted murderess. Like, she is a thief and a deceiver, if you ask me. But also, Leary was a good mom. And right, I mean, I think that's part of sort of the complexity of characters. Yeah, that Leary can be like a really horrible person to Claire and to Jamie, but like she can also be a really good, like a really caring and loving mom who can bring her daughters up in that love. And you know, sort of instill that confidence in them. And I just, like, again, I'm not a Leary fan by any like stretch of the imagination, but I think there's evidence to suggest that Leary was a really good mom. And I love Marsali. Like, I even think of Marsali like in the books. I can't wait for us to see even more of her character, because to me, Marsali is so much like Claire. Like, Marsali is ride or die for Team Fraser. Like, Marsali, like, she is not afraid to like work. She's not afraid to get her hands dirty. And she loves so sincerely. She loves that. Like, she loves her family. And I adore Marsali. We've certainly seen that in terms of like the TV show Marsali, but I can't wait for us to learn even more about her character, because she's really, really fabulous. She's fantastic. And to me, like, just seeing, like, having that moment between Claire and Marsali sort of reinforced that even more, that yeah, there was a rocky start to their relationship, but moving forward, they're in sync, right? They're in sync. They're on the same page. And whatever Claire can do to help Marsali, Claire will do it. And whatever Marsali can do to help Claire, Marsali will do it. I mean, they're in sync now. And I love that. I love that so much.
I agree. I think they are. I think Marsali respects Claire, and I think Claire respects Marsali, and they do kind of love each other and have this bond. And there's a part of me that wonders, and you know, I know-ish what happens, but I don't know like the details of the book because I haven't read them. But there's a part of me that whenever Marsali, you know, hugs her and says, you know, I'll send you a letter as soon as the Baron is born, then I'm like, there's a part of me that goes, if you even said that you were thinking you were close to your due date, like, part of me thinks that Claire would totally try and get to you to be there to help you, because that's who Claire is.
Yeah. And like, the thing is, that's who Marsali is too.
Yeah. Because she knows that there are people that are capable. There are midwives around that are capable, but I think that Claire also thinks that she's the most capable person for the job. And so that makes me wonder how that's going to work out. But their relationship and its progression has made me so happy.
Yeah,
and little Fergus sitting there in the background. They all grew up so fast.
But I mean, Katie, I think the point that you made about this sort of transitioning into Claire thinking about Bree and thinking about how when she was pregnant with Bree, she really missed her mother. And she can only imagine that, like, when Bree is like, goes through all those, like, getting married, being pregnant for the first time, having her first child. I mean, she too will miss her mother, and Claire won't be, or Claire can't be there for her. And that really sort of triggering a longing and a sadness in Claire as well. But I mean, Jamie's response, I think, is a very sweet response, but still, you know, that longing is real.
It is. And I think just Claire I don't know, trying to get into my feelings, like mom feelings. I can't imagine what that worry or that wondering would be like. And I know that Claire's, you know, she loves Jamie and she's happy that she's there with him, but also she left part of herself when she, you know, with Bree on the other side of those stones. And there's not a day that goes by that she's never going to worry about her daughter, you know, and what she's going through. And that's the emotional side of this season so far, and working through the feelings and the cost of traveling through time.
Yes.
I think they've handled it just wonderfully so far.
Yeah. No, Katie, and even your phrasing, right? The cost. The cost, right? I mean, yes, you've gained a lot, but there's a cost associated here. I mean, there's a physical cost, there's an emotional cost, right? And this is something that Claire weighs all the time. And I think Jamie does too, right? I mean, Jamie certainly realizes the sacrifice that Claire has made here, that their daughter, right, is across time, across the universe without her parents, for the sake of Jamie and Claire being able to be together and live their life together, right? And even Jamie's response of sort of reassuring Claire that, you know, Bree, she has your her memories of you. She has your words. She has, you know, she has these things that she can hold on to when she starts to miss you, to always know that you love her and that you care for her. Just because that's what Jamie did, right? When Claire was on the other side away from him, that's what Jamie did, right? So he imagines that that Bree will do the same thing.
Oh, my heart.
I know, I'm so emotional. I'm so emotional right
my
now.
Heart, goodness gracious.
I'm so emotional. It was really good. It was a great scene. It was a great scene. Yeah, maybe we need to end it there before I start like sobbing.
It was a fantastic scene. It was so well done. I'm so proud of them.
It was really good. It was really good. So after that, right, Jamie has a moment with Fergus, and he's like, Fergus, you need to start recruiting people to come to Fraser's Ridge, look for Highlanders. And then
yes, he said he's looking for Highlanders, people who may or may not have been at Ardsmuir, who were, you know, taken from, you know, Scotland back over to the United States. So the question remains for the rest of this season until it gets answered. Where's Murtaugh? Murtaugh needs to show up at Fraser's Ridge. He can be helpful. He can dance and make us happy. He would be a nice, lovely old face to see. I need this to happen, guys. Like, there's not much that ever goes my way in shows. I just need this to happen.
Hashtag give us Murtaugh. And that's all we'll say. That's all we'll say.
Give us Murtaugh.
Although again, I have my speculation. So if you have your speculation, I have my speculation. Friends, find me on social media and let us have a conversation about our hypotheses, because I think many of us are on the same page about if Murtaugh will show up, when will Murtaugh show up, what might Murtaugh be doing when he shows up. So
yeah, guys,
let's have a conversation. Reach
out to Fumi, because she told me her theory, and you need to listen to her, and y'all can talk about it, and it'll be great. So,
I think many of us are on the same page about what we think about Murtaugh. So let us discuss, and hopefully our theories will pan out. But then Jamie, Claire, and Ian, they set out from Wilmington, and they are headed back west, and they are going to build Fraser's Ridge. Here's the thing, though, right? Again, there's a lot of optimism, right? When they arrive, they're, setting the boundaries or demarcating the boundaries of Fraser's Ridge, of their land, with wooden posts. Claire talks about well, she doesn't sing, even though Jamie wants her to sing, but she recites America. For Jamie, again, there's a lot of optimism, but like a couple things. First, cabin construction is hard. And secondly, there are wild animals. And thirdly, there is a lot of resistance from their new neighbors, the local Cherokee tribe. So there's a lot going on in this episode as they're trying to build Fraser's Ridge.
They are. And I was watching it, and Claire's got this map with the land markings, and she's like, there's one that goes like 100 yards here. And first of all, I would have been lost. Like, I would have been like, this is the map? Okay, well, I think somewhere around, like, Fumbi can tell you guys, like, if I didn't have Fumbi or like Google, Apple Maps, I would never find my way around anywhere. And then I have to walk with the blue dot to make sure I'm going in the right direction for a little bit. So, like, this whole idea of like marking the woods with these stakes, I'm just no.
I know. I said the exact same thing. I'm like, building a cabin is hard, and living in the woods is scary.
And see, like, that's why cabins are so small. Because that's why cabins have got to be so small. Because I mean, after he did all those, like, just the bottom part of that house, like, at this point, I'd be like, let's just put a roof on it, and we'll just like crawl.
And live in like a lean-to.
Yeah, because. Oh my goodness, I would be awful going back in time.
But they do it.
And they do it so well.
And they do it so well. And the scenes that we get of them sort of chopping down wood and sawing the wood and gathering stones and fishing and like repairing netting and all the things that they're doing, right? It's just part of like the day-to-day work. And I think they find they find quite a bit of satisfaction in it. And I mean, I imagine that would be the case, right? I mean, there's really good satisfaction, I imagine, in a job well done, right?
Yeah.
A day of hard work and being able to see your hard work start to manifest in terms of, right, the construction of this building, right? So I imagine that there's a lot of they get a lot of satisfaction out of their work. But as I said, constructing a cabin is hard, and living in the woods is scary.
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly a 20th, 21st century girl. Thoroughly.
I mean, I imagine you feel super accomplished, like just little things. Like, I mean, heck, I feel accomplished whenever I'm like, I did the laundry and got everything clean today, but building a house and like sanding down the wood, and like Claire, like leading the horses as they're dragging this timber. Like, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
I imagine they're all tired.
Yeah. But, and like, it's really, I mean, Jamie, it's like he is essentially the architect, right? I mean, he lays out, right? This is where the front door is going to be. This is where the shed is going to be, where we're going to dry our meat. This is where your shed is going to be, your she shed, Claire, where you're going to be able to where you're going to be able to see your patients, right? I mean, he lays it all out, and he marks it all out. He does so very systematically, and I think that's incredible. And again, a hard day's work leading to, I think, quite a bit of satisfaction, right? But again, that's not to say that they don't face obstacles. And tonight, those obstacles come in the form of a local Cherokee group that is very much resisting the Fraser's attempt to settle in this location.
They are, and they're so intimidating, and like you're worried and kind of like a little scared of their approach. But at the same time, I was like, okay, they've got guns. So at some point, either they've run into other people, or maybe they've traded for those things. And some of but there's a part of me that goes, well, you guys sort of just came onto their land, so they're probably not happy about that. And Jamie kind of understands it. And he even's like, well, maybe I can trade with them or give them something as compensation. But I'm like, yeah, they are kind of intimidating looking, but you guys are building the house on their land. And
yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly like when they first arrive, right? And they're demarcating the boundaries, right? A group of Cherokee warriors shows up, and they just stand there, right? They stand to let you know that we are here. We see you. Not only are we here, but we were here first, right? So don't you forget it, right? And then there's the scene where they return the wooden boundary posts, and they ride up on them and throw the boundary posts into the ground. It's like, that's really intimidating, right? But it's a message, right? It's a sign that in fact you think you have claim to this land, that you are demarcating it. But we're here to let you know that you in fact have no claim to this land, and we will respect no claim you attempt to make to this land. Your boundaries mean absolutely nothing to us. And that's a really powerful message.
Oh, heck yeah, it is. First, you're right. It's so intimidating because they're coming up and they're throwing these, the markers down, and it's just, this is not yours, and we're not going to let you have it this way. This isn't yours. And then there's a part of me, and the petty part of me goes, that was so much work.
And now they have to do it again.
They have to do it all again. And then I'm like, man, they're really intimidating, but they're going to have to go put up those markers again.
Well, but here's they get some really, I know I've been really tough on John Quincy Myers so far this season because he creeped me out a little bit. But tonight, I would say that John Quincy Myers is useful, and I thought he gave Jamie some really useful advice. He was like, first of all, number one, a bear stole your food last night. You need to eat, so you need to take this meat. Firstly, secondly, the bear attack is actually a good sign because you need to stop construction on your house until this conflict with the Cherokees can be resolved, because they threw those boundary posts into the ground in front of you this time. Next time, you don't know what they might do. So this is something that needs to be resolved. You can resolve it by a good gesture, some tobacco. I will speak to the Cherokee since I already have good relationships with them. I can speak to them and intercede on your behalf. I was thinking about it, I was like, John Quincy Myers is really useful. He said some really important things, and he gave some really good advice. So I was impressed.
And so he's always been like an odd duck, I guess. And I've just been like, oh, he's a strange little dude. But tonight, I really appreciated him a whole lot. And it was those little things like you need to eat, because if you don't eat, then your brain's not going to be right. You're not going to be able to do anything. and let me help you with this. And he seems like a good guy, like one of the good guys, and one of the guys that really sort of respects the Cherokee and the way they do things in a way. And I don't necessarily know if he, I don't know how to say it, if he, considers them equal, or if he does find himself in some way superior to them. But I think he treats and talks about them much more kindly than any of his other contemporaries do. Agreed. And he does kind of respect their culture in a way. And so I liked him. I did. And
I mean, he has conversations with the Cherokee, right? Because like when there's a bear attack at the Fraser's camp, and they even attack poor Finley, the horse. The bear got poor Finley. The Cherokee have spoken to John Quincy Myers and told him that, in fact, we have been having issues with the bear as well. There's a bear called Tiskiliona, right? So this is an evil spirit that takes the form of a bear, right? So that adds another dimension to the story, because yes, now the Frasers are dealing with the Cherokee and the conflict with the Cherokee, but they also have this issue with this rogue bear, evil bear spirit that's on the run. And in fact, that is where, when talking about common ground in this episode, this is how the Frasers and the local Cherokee group are able to find common ground. It's by taking on Tiskiliona.
Tiskiliona. Yeah, I'm trying to go Tiskiliona. Yes. Oh goodness. In that episode, whenever they hear something outside at night, and they see that it's, that man, and this is after, it's attacked the Finley, the horse, and they've, John Quincy Myers has told him about Tiskiliona and this bear spirit thing that's been also kind of wreaking havoc for the Cherokee. They see this body, and my first response was, no, I just started liking him, really. Don't let him die.
Who, John Quincy?
Yes. I was like, no, not him. But, Claire, she pulls it all together. I thought that, the whole situation, it was a build upon the thing about what is civility, what is barbarism, what happens to someone when they lose themselves. And that's what happened here.
Yeah.
Oftentimes man is monster.
Often, because Jamie, right, is able to, like, it's, and I just need to say, Katie and I were talking about this before we started we went live, but I thought that this episode was so, like, in terms of the sequencing of the scenes, was so well done. Because, like, I mean, several things are going on simultaneously, right? Claire is working on John Quincy Myers. Claire and Ian are working on John Quincy Myers and trying to save John Quincy Myers. Jamie has taken off after Tiskiliona and is engaged in this like fight to the death with Tiskiliona. Like, and they simultaneously realize that Tiskiliona is not a real bear; he's actually a man, right? And then on top of that, at the same, like, simultaneously, the Cherokee are engaged in this ceremony that's being led by this Cherokee elder woman, and they too are engaged in this ceremony of sort of mimicking a bear fight, right? And like all of these things are going on simultaneously, and we're seeing all these things overlap. I just thought it was filmed so well. I thought it was really well done. But sort of upon Jamie realizing that it's actually a man, he's able to kill Tuskegee with one of those boundary posts to the rescue. And he builds a pallet, right? And he's like, this is going to be my good gesture. I'm going to bring Tuskegee to the Cherokee, and I'm going to show them that this is a man. It's not a monster. It's not a spirit. This is a man. But the thing is, they've already known that he was a man, right? And that's where, one of the leaders of this Cherokee groups makes the statement that oftentimes man is monster, right? Jamie's like, it isn't a monster, it's a man. And he says, oftentimes man is monster. And again, something that's really like a short phrase, but really profound.
Yes. And that moment, or maybe just a couple lines later, he tells Jamie, we couldn't kill something that was already dead to us. And so it was almost like they were waiting for someone else to be able to kill this man, because he was already dead to them. He did not exist to them. And he had lost himself to the point where the person he was didn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
And so Jamie is that person, the person that finally was able to put this man out of his misery, I guess.
Yeah. And like it essentially, it's like Jamie does them a favor by killing Tuskegee, right? And in doing so, he becomes Yona Dahai, I think is how it's pronounced. Which is the bear killer, right? And again, that becomes the common ground, right? That they're able to form a new pact for peace, right? Jamie says that he says, I'm not Tuskegee, right? I'm here to live with my family in peace. And it seems that the Cherokee group accepts that, because the next day they come, or the next day, or maybe a couple days later, they bring the leader, the chief of the group, and they agree, right, that there's going to be no more blood spilled between us. We're going to live in peace. And then, Jamie invites them to come and share a meal together. And again, I think about, right, like this aired after Thanksgiving, right, the same week as Thanksgiving. And we think about sort of the original Thanksgiving, which was the, Native American groups welcoming the Pilgrims to the U.S. Welcoming the Pilgrims to the area and offering, right, to share their bounty with them as a form of communing and building sort of shared community between them, right? And we see that sort of in this scene, something very similar happening. Of course, we can't talk about that without then also talking about what comes next, which is the complete sort of like decimation and genocide of these Native American groups by white European colonizers, right? But I guess in this moment, in this part of the episode, we can find optimism in that, right?
Yeah, and it's a moment where I think that the Cherokee show. I mean, they probably, and I doubt they will ever fully like trust or feel comfortable, but in that moment, they are willing to kind of extend, a little bit of friendship. And Jamie and Claire, come, here, eat with us. And I think that is the common ground that they've made, that we're here, we can coexist together. Maybe we can even kind of form some type of, friendly-ish relationship. And that's good. And I think that Jamie and Claire, especially Claire, she knows what's going to happen. She knows what comes next. And I can see her, I don't know, in some ways, like even subtly like warning these people about things to avoid or places to go or run to. And especially in regard to the older woman that she speaks to, who has that, dream about her. Yeah. I can see Claire kind of opening up in ways, especially if it comes out about their own little stones.
Yeah. Well, you think about, it's interesting that you mentioned again Claire knowing what's coming and potentially warning like the local Native American groups what's coming. But remember the skull that she found, right? This is a Native American man from the future who has come back to this time period. For what purpose, right? I don't think we can forget that. I don't think we can forget that. So, I mean, I'm not going to say anything else about that, but I think that's important to keep in mind, right? That as we've said, Claire and Jamie aren't the only people out here trying to change history. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that. But I also think it's important to think about Adawehi's dream. So this is what she says, or this is what her like granddaughter-in-law translates. The moon was in the water and you became a white raven. You flew over the water and swallowed the moon. The white raven flew back and laid an egg in the palm of her hand. The egg split open and there was a shining stone inside. She knew this was great magic, that the stone could heal sickness, right? So it's this great prophecy about Claire, that like Claire already has, like, Claire's a healer and Claire already has like amazing healing abilities. And according to Adawehi, Claire's healing abilities will only grow. Claire's wisdom will only continue to grow and continue to strengthen. And I thought that was a fantastic prophecy to hear about yourself. But then there's also like the other side where Adawehi says, you must not be troubled. Death is sent from the gods. It will not be your fault. So the question is, whose death is Adawehi referencing?
See, and that has me worried. That does. But what gives me a little bit of hope is Adawehi tells her that, you know, you're a great healer now, but your wisdom is only going to grow with age. And when your hair is white, you will have all of this wisdom and all of this knowledge. And that doesn't kind of add up with her dying in this fire that Roger finds out about.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. No comment.
So, I mean, unless Claire gets like super stressed and those 10 great occasionally pop up, just go white.
Well, okay.
Or unless she gets like hit with some powder or something, they're like, your hair's white.
No,
you're like, how can I say this without not?
I try to. Well, I think, and even if we think of the preview of next week's episode, like there's going to be conflict between like the new settlers who come into Fraser's Ridge, as well as the local Native American groups, right? And Claire and I assume Jamie as well, but Claire we see is in the middle of that, right? Trying to sort of like broker peace between these two groups. And again, she already knows what's coming, right? So I mean, Adawehi could be talking about the death of the local Native American groups, right? That you have this wisdom of time. You have this wisdom gained through time. And yes, death is coming. Death of these groups is coming. It will not be your fault, right? So I sort of read it as Adawehi trying to grant Claire, like to free Claire of some of that guilt, potentially of like knowing where history will go and knowing the death that is coming, but Claire not having any power to change it. So that's how I sort of read it. Not necessarily in terms of like Claire's own death. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Am I sort of flying on the edge here? Am I not making any sense? I don't know. That's what
like you saying that, like it makes everything sort of makes sense now that you said that, because you know, Adawehi's telling her, you know, it's not going to be your fault. Death comes and you can't be troubled about that. And if you take into consideration that she may know that Claire is a little bit different, and maybe this previous time traveler has also come back with a warning, with, you know, this And so some things just won't change. And oh goodness, you just made my mind just kind of like explode.
Well, you know, these are the things that we think about.
Smart.
Well, I've also read the books, so don't give me too much credit. Give Diana Gabaldon the credit.
I'm giving you all the credit.
Give Diana Gabaldon the credit. But two things that I wanted to say before we pivot to the 20th century, because we do have some significant stuff to talk about. So first, I just want to say again that I really, 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 really appreciate that we're learning about the respect that the Cherokee people had for women in their community and in this time period. I thought that was so important to get across, right? You even think about, like, again, this ceremony that's being led, it's Adewaihi that's leading this ceremony, right? And that she's a very powerful person, or I mean, she's a powerful healer, and she's a respected person in their community. And even when you think of Tuskegee Yona, right? A year ago, he was exiled from the group. Why was he exiled? Because he raped a Cherokee woman, right? So even like the fact that too was punishable, or was that severely punished to the point where he became dead to them, right? And again, like you think back to John Quincy Myers saying that, you know, Cherokee women are able to select their husbands, they pick who they bring to their bed. So again, consent matters. Consent is sexy. So I just really just wanted to say that. I really appreciated that. And then secondly, now that the conflict is over, we can build Fraser's Ridge. So Jamie carrying Claire across the threshold, Claire wearing those hot buckskin pants. Those gave me life. Those really gave me life. But I just thought that, again, we're back again to this optimism, this hope of building this future for themselves. So I was very happy.
And I co-sign everything you just said. Co-sign, especially the dealing with the Cherokee and their treatment of women. That was one thing that I wrote down and made notes on. But I appreciate that so much. And you're right, consent is sexy. I love that. And especially considering how often we've talked about, you know, let's try and get away from using rape as this plot device. Let's do something else. Consent is sexy. I like this.
Yes.
And you're right. There's so much hope, and there's this optimism, and I'm so hopeful. And then also I'm so terrified because they're going to make me so happy and hopeful, and then I feel like they're going to like pull the rug out from underneath me, and I'm just going to like fall all over the place, and I'm so worried about that. Like, they have me paranoid.
I will just say that things are never smooth sailing for Jamie.
I know, and that's why I'm
never, ever. Things have never been, and I imagine they won't be until the tail end of the series. So, we pivot to the 20th century.
Speaking of angst,
right? Because we're several months after Bree and Roger's trip to the Highland Festival. They have not been in communication, yet Roger has been, I assume, in an attempt to like have a connection with Bree, has been doing this research based on the book that Bree gave to him about the Scottish Highlanders that settled North Carolina. And Roger finds Fraser's Ridge. He finds Fraser's Ridge in the book. And, you know, he gets into contact with the author of the book, and she's able to send him corroborating documents, including the land grant that Jamie signed, and a letter from one of the settlers of Fraser's Ridge confirming that Jamie Fraser had a wife named Claire who was a healer. So that, I mean, when Roger calls and shares that news, they're both so thrilled that it was a really lovely moment.
It was. And like his face when he sees Jamie's signature on those documents, like we both made the same face. Like we were both, and you know, just, it was, I loved it. And then the moment he calls her and she's like, Roger, and there's kind of like an awkwardness about their communication.
So awkward.
Because they've left things so there's no closure. There's nothing there. It's still very open.
Yeah.
And they haven't talked, and they're both, they both are just dancing around this as opposed to kind of meeting it head on.
Yeah.
But she thanks him. She says, thank you for looking even after what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just like, that, because Roger's not a bad guy, but he had a few bad moments.
Yeah, he didn't do the right thing. He didn't do the right thing. But it's like, it's clear from the conversation that they both want more.
Yes.
They both want more, but they just can't figure out how to like cross that bridge and like sort of come back together to meet in the middle. So it's a lovely moment, but it's also really awkward and like it's a little bit like bittersweet. It's sad as well, and I just want to say that like roommate Gail is all of us. Because like Gail is sitting in the room and she's like, is that the Roger? Like she's like really excited, and I feel like Gail is all of us. They're like just cheering, like you can do it, just tell them the truth, like you can do it, get back together, it's gonna be okay.
I love Gail.
Like Gail is all of us as far as I'm concerned.
Gail's me going, just talk to him, just talk to him, just say hi.
Yeah, exactly.
I love her. She's sitting there holding that cat, like, and just kind of walks out of the room, like, I'll leave you to it.
What's going on? But the conversation ends. They say their goodbyes. Weeks go by, and we find out that Fiona knows. Fiona knows.
She does, and not only does she know, she's like, she looks at him like, I can't believe you don't think that I wouldn't know. Like my mom, like my grandmother, right? Did all this.
Yeah.
Like I know all the stories of people getting lost through the stones.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, she's looking at him like, oh, you sweet summer child. I've known this whole time.
Yeah.
Also, the walls aren't thick.
Yeah. But like, not only have I known, not only do I have this family history, but the Reverend has been doing some research, and as I've been cleaning and unpacking this house, I found some of that research. And that research includes an obituary. Supposedly, Jamie and Claire's obituary from the 1770s. Apparently, Jamie and Claire die in a house fire. Apparently. Supposedly, in the 1770s.
Mm-hmm. And this is where I texted you. Pack your bags, Roger. It's time to go fix this. Because, like, if you know, gosh, like, be like Claire, I'm going to change it.
Well, like, Roger, so that's like making a leap, right? Because like Roger doesn't even know that he's gonna tell Bree what Fiona has told him, right? Like he doesn't even know that he's gonna tell Bree, much less make this trip, right? But like Fiona is adamant that Bree deserves to know. Mm-hmm. And Roger, like the episode ends with Roger making this call. Gail picks up the phone, homegirl Gail picks up the phone and is like, Bree is in Scotland. She's been in Scotland for like 2 weeks. I'm surprised you have not seen her. Well, what is Bree doing in Scotland? Bree went to go visit her mom. What? So, and you see Roger's face, like Roger's entire countenance shifts. Like his body sinks to the chair. His face falls because he knows what this means.
He knows exactly what it means.
Bree is going through the stones, y'all. That's what it means.
And I know you tweeted this or someone tweeted it, but part of me goes, man, she traveled all the way to Scotland to go through some stones, and there was some this whole time in North America.
True. That is actually, I think someone tweeted that at us at We So Nerdy, and I retweeted it. But like, true. But the thing is that like Bree doesn't know that, and actually like Claire and Jamie don't even really know it either. I mean, they know that there's one in Jamaica now, but like the lore around the stones, like the idea that there's multiple stones at different locations, like I don't think Jamie and Claire are even that aware of it, right? It seems it isn't really, right? Like it's not a science, so to speak. I don't know. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But it just, I think for Bree, she's like, there's something that I need to do, right? That between having this conversation with Roger and that time where she gets on a plane from Boston and heads to Scotland, Bree must have seen something, heard something, learned something that led her to believe that she needs to get to her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way, right? So think back to the end of season 2. I think it's the end of season 2, yeah? Where Bree, Roger, and Claire like follow young Gellis Duncan,
yeah,
or like as she's trying to go through the stones, right? That's the end of season 2, right?
Yeah,
where she's trying to get through the stones, right? So like all Bree and Roger know are what they've learned from Claire and Claire's experiences, which is that the stones are the way to travel is through Craignadoon, and you need you need certain things in order to make the trip. And that's all she knows, right? She's going on sort of what she's heard from her mother. So she's just going to try to replicate that to the best of her ability, I guess.
Oh, goodness. Man, she's going to show up in Inverness and asking around for Jamie Fraser or his family, and oh, mercy.
Yeah. It's gonna be something. And that's what else. I think that's where we should leave it, because we don't want to give too many spoilers to the people out there. However, friends, especially those friends who have read the books, or even if you haven't and you want to talk about sort of speculation and theory, please come find us on social media. We're always happy to talk about sort of speculation and our thoughts about what is coming next. But the preview for next week has me excited, because I want to see what's going on through Bree's mind. Yeah. I want to see Bree, what you been doing, girl? What research you've been doing? What did you find out? What are your goals here? And how do you figure you are going to find your parents once you make it through, right? So and also Roger, what are you about to do?
And see, I'm so excited for it, because like I know that it's all going to work out, and it does work out, because in the previews you see, Bree's bracelet, on a woman who's wearing a 1700s gown. You see someone holding that sketch, the drawing of Bree. And honestly, like, how coincidental is it that Roger would have a drawing of Bree? Because he can't go back in time showing a picture. That he couldn't share that with anyone. So now he's got like this perfect thing that he can show and be like, have you seen this, this beautiful young woman?
Yeah.
I just need all of this to happen like now.
Well, we're at episode 4. We just finished episode 4. There are 13.
I know, but you know me. Like, once I get on something, I'm like, next.
The thing is, I will just say this. And again, those of our friends who have watched and who have read the books, you guys know what happens in this book. And like, things are never smooth sailing for Jamie and Claire and the Frasers. And that's all I'm going to say. And we're going to see it. I mean, we're going to see it. But it's not like, I don't know. I'm really dreading it.
I know, because like it just registered in my mind too, and now I'm just like, oh.
I'm really ready. But I'm gonna be here, guys. I'm gonna be here every single week talking about it. And I mean, they're gonna be tough things to see. But I mean, we've always been talking about sort of tough things to see, difficult things to see. But we get through it, and you guys help us get through it, and hopefully our conversations help you get through it as well. So we continue, we move forward, we soldier on. Yeah.
Yes. It helps me get through it too.
Good. Okay, that's all I've got. Katie, how about you?
That's all. I'm good. I'm just now in my head thinking about other things.
I know. Speculation. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching with us as we talk about Common Ground. Remember, again, the link to our recap and review is right down below. So definitely take a look. Please, guys, always share your comments. We love reading your comments and hearing from you and hearing your insights into the series and into the history. So please continue to share. Find us on social media. And yeah, that's all I have. I guess have a great week, and we'll see you next week, Katie.
Yeah, have a great week, guys, and thanks so much for watching and talking with us and kind of sharing this season and the hopefulness and the optimism and being there with us through all the dips too. And so thank you so much. Have a great week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.